Hello, and welcome back to Game On Movie Recap channel. In today's video, we're going to recap a movie from 2016 called Central Intelligence, an action comedy film that follows an accountant who reunites with his former bullied high school classmate, now a rogue CIA agent, as they embark on a wild and dangerous adventure involving espionage, betrayal, and saving the world from a lethal conspiracy. And without further ado, let's get straight to the video. But before we start, please support our channel by subscribing and click the bell icon for future notifications. Now, let's start. In 1996, Robbie Wyerdicht, a student at Central High School, faces humiliation in the locker room while dancing and lip-syncing to En Vogue's My Lovin'. Trevor Olson and his group of high school bullies mock Robbie due to his weight and nerdy demeanor. Meanwhile, a school assembly takes place, honoring Calvin the Golden Jet Joyner, the most popular student in the senior class. Trevor and his cronies forcefully bring Robbie into the gym, where they strip him naked and slide him across the floor, provoking laughter from everyone except Calvin. In a moment of empathy, Calvin offers Robbie his jacket to shield him from further embarrassment. Overwhelmed with shame, Robbie hastily flees the gym, his self-esteem shattered. Fast forward 20 years, and Calvin finds himself stuck in an unfulfilling accounting job, frustrated by the recent promotion of his former assistant. His marriage to his high school sweetheart, Maggie, is also strained. As their high school reunion approaches, Calvin's anxiety grows. He fears that his life peaked in high school and that he has since spiraled into a downward trajectory. At work, Calvin initially declines a Facebook invitation to his high school reunion. Soon after, he receives a friend request from someone named Bob Stone. As Calvin contemplates the request, he receives a suspicious phone call, which turns out to be from his wife, Maggie. Following the call, Bob Stone begins messaging Calvin, inviting him out for a drink. To Calvin's surprise, Bob claims to be Robbie Wyerdicht and insists on meeting up. Reluctantly, Calvin accepts the invitation. Calvin walks to the designated bar and is taken aback by the transformation of Robbie, now going by the name Bob Stone, into a muscular and confident individual. The two old acquaintances have drinks together and catch up on their lives. However, a brief moment of Bob's absence leads to a stranger occupying his chair. Calvin confronts the man and demands the chair back, but the man's friends stand up menacingly. Just as tensions rise, Bob returns and commands the strangers to apologize for disrespecting Calvin. In a surprising turn of events, one of the strangers reveals a gun. Bob, unfazed, skillfully disarms the situation and swiftly takes down all the assailants in a matter of seconds. With a calm demeanor, Bob utters, "I don't like bullies," asserting his stance against injustice. Calvin and Bob leave the bar, their spirits lifted by the unexpected display of Bob's combat skills. They decide to take a nostalgic stroll through their old high school, reminiscing about the past. As they pass by a trophy case showcasing Calvin's achievements, they come across a picture of Darla McGuckian, a girl Bob had a crush on and was known for having two lazy eyes. The sight brings back memories for Bob, but Calvin offers comfort and gently guides him away from the painful reminder. Leaving the school, they head back to Calvin's house. During the walk, Bob mentions needing Calvin's assistance related to something in Calvin's area of expertise. Intrigued, they enter Calvin's house, and Bob sits down at the computer to delve into the matter. They stumble upon files concerning satellite codes and a high-stakes bidding war, but their exploration is abruptly interrupted when Bob accidentally spills beer on Calvin's laptop, causing the screen to go blank. Frustrated by the interruption, Bob requests to stay overnight at Calvin's place, and although Calvin hesitates, he ultimately agrees to let him stay. In the morning, a group of CIA agents led by Pamela Harris show up at Calvin's door looking for Bob. Calvin reveals that Bob is on the couch, but when the agents enter, Bob is nowhere to be found. Harris informs Calvin that Bob is wanted for murder and conspiracy to commit treason. The agents decide to follow Calvin to work, suspecting that he might make contact with Bob. True to their suspicions, Bob calls Calvin from within the building and claims to be hiding somewhere. Harris leads the agents to the designated floor, but unbeknownst to them, Bob is actually hiding in Calvin's office. Inside the office, Bob reveals his true identity as a CIA agent and explains that dangerous individuals are after the satellite codes, willing to kill to obtain them. Bob quickly summons an Uber, scheduled to arrive in 6 minutes. He strategically plans his next moves. Bob takes Calvin's tie and wraps it around the sprinkler on the ceiling, igniting it before Calvin rushes outside to alert everyone to Bob's presence. As the agents rush up to confront Bob, he effortlessly fights back, incapacitating most of them. However, Bob and Calvin find themselves cornered by Harris and the remaining agents. At the opportune moment, the sprinklers go off, creating chaos and giving Bob a chance to wheel Calvin away in a mail cart. They crash through a window and land on the company's inflatable balloons, floating away just as the Uber arrives to pick them up. Bob takes Calvin to a secure location to remove the GPS tracker from the car. He shares the story of being set up, explaining that his partner, Phil, was trapped in an elevator and left to be blown up, for which Bob has been framed. He believes that someone codenamed Black Badger is after the satellite codes for nefarious purposes, and he seeks Calvin's help as the only person he trusts. Suddenly, an assassin on a motorcycle arrives. Bob quickly dispatches the attacker, but in the chaos, he insists that Calvin take the motorcycle and escape while he stays behind. Calvin calls Maggie and warns her not to go home. As Calvin walks away, Pamela Harris arrives in a van and forces him to get inside. Harris portrays Bob as dangerous and flips the story, claiming that it was Calvin who betrayed Phil and orchestrated his murder. She provides Calvin with a device to signal Bob's location. Calvin meets Maggie at the office of a marriage counselor named Dr. Dan, who is actually Bob in disguise. They have a counseling session where Calvin is painted as the antagonist causing strain in their relationship. After Maggie leaves, Calvin confronts Bob, threatening to contact Harris. However, Bob is confident that Calvin wouldn't do such a thing, leading to a tense standoff between the two. Bob and Calvin seek the assistance of someone who can aid them in their mission, unaware that it is Trevor Olson. Despite Trevor providing them with what they need, he takes the opportunity to bring up the traumatic incident that scarred Bob. Trevor pretends to have found religion and delivers a seemingly heartfelt apology, only to quickly retract it, revealing his true nature as a contemptuous individual who still holds disdain for Bob. Calvin expects Bob to retaliate, but to his surprise, Bob freezes and chooses to walk away. As they exit the office, Calvin receives a call from Harris, wanting him to deliver Bob or face consequences for Maggie. Calvin meets up with Bob outside, where Bob expresses that Calvin was always his only true friend, making their situation even more difficult when the agents arrive and apprehend them. Bob and Calvin find themselves detained at CIA headquarters. The agents resort to torturing Bob in order to extract information, breaking one of his fingers. Filled with remorse, Calvin fights back against the agents, freeing Bob and leaving the other operatives restrained. Calvin apologizes to Bob for his past actions and declares his commitment to helping him. Bob forgives him and attempts to give him a high five, only to realize the state of his mangled finger. He nonchalantly pops it back into place. Bob and Calvin receive information about the location where the adversaries intend to purchase the satellite codes. Boarding a plane, they begin their journey but soon find themselves running out of fuel. Bob declares an emergency and prepares for a crash landing. During this intense moment, Calvin opens up about his regret of not being a father. Unexpectedly, Bob pulls the plane back up, revealing that he staged the situation to prompt Calvin to express his deepest fears under extreme stress. Deciding to proceed with the mission, Bob insists on going in alone, telling Calvin, "I'll see you on the other side," which echoes what he had said to Phil before his tragic death. As Calvin keeps a watchful eye, he notices Harris arriving at the location, leading him to suspect that she might be Black Badger. Determined to uncover the truth, Calvin enters the rendezvous point only to witness Bob engaging in the deal with the buyer. A shot is fired, grazing Calvin's neck, but it becomes clear that Bob intentionally missed. The real Black Badger emerges, revealing himself to be Phil, claiming he possesses the authentic satellite codes. An argument ensues between Bob and Phil as they dispute their true identities, with Phil even mocking Bob's favorite movies. In a sudden turn of events, Harris and her agents storm the scene, engaging in a firefight with the buyer and his associates. Amidst the chaos, Calvin seizes the opportunity to snatch the codes. Together, Calvin, Bob, and Phil make a daring escape, leaving behind the tumultuous battle behind them. On the small bridge, tension reaches its peak as Calvin finds himself holding a gun. Torn between Bob and philosophy, Calvin's shot strikes Bob in the leg, incapacitating him. While he keeps the gun pointed at philosophy, Phil confesses that he faked his own death and framed Bob out of sheer annoyance with his partner, particularly Bob's dorky nature and constant idolization of Calvin. Just as Phil is about to eliminate Calvin, Bob takes swift and decisive action, tearing out Phil's throat and pushing him into the river. Bob apologizes to Calvin for shooting him, explaining that it was necessary to make their ruse convincing. With the danger averted, the trio hands over the satellite codes to Harris, who expresses gratitude for their assistance. As Bob's name is finally cleared, Harris arranges for their transportation to the high school reunion via a helicopter. Calvin and Bob arrive at the reunion and reunite with Maggie. Determined to make amends and rebuild their relationship, Calvin promises to work on their marriage and move forward together. The trio confidently enters the high school reunion, where a new prom king is announced, and to everyone's surprise, it's Bob. Calvin reveals to Maggie that he hacked into the school's voting system to ensure Bob's well-deserved recognition. When Trevor and his buddies attempt to mock Bob, he refuses to be belittled any longer and delivers a punch that Trevor has long deserved. Taking the stage, Bob delivers a heartfelt speech, expressing his acceptance of himself and acknowledging Calvin as his true friend. Embracing his newfound confidence, Bob fearlessly removes his clothes, symbolizing his liberation from shame. The crowd erupts in applause and cheers, fully supporting Bob's display of self-acceptance. In a serendipitous moment, Darla McGuckian approaches Bob, and he tenderly removes her glasses, recognizing her beauty as it is. They share a passionate kiss, affirming their connection. Bob and Calvin continue the festivities by dancing together, celebrating their enduring friendship and the triumph over their past insecurities. Months later, Maggie is pregnant with her and Calvin's first child, marking a new chapter in their lives. Bob arrives to pick up Calvin for their regular hangout, returning the jacket that Calvin had selflessly given him 2 decades earlier. With their bond stronger than ever, the two friends set off, ready to face the future with renewed confidence and a shared sense of acceptance and joy. And the movie ended. What do you think of the movie? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit like and support the channel by subscribing and click the bell icon so that you won't miss our future recaps. And if you have any movie you want us to recap, please do tell us in the comments section as well. And until next time.